for the symbolic expression of the complex process that has led to the present situation of crisis in matters of morals and the vision of life. The best formulation is that of Nietzsche: God is dead. For our purposes, we can take Nietzsche's theme as our point of departure, because it has lost nothing of its validity and relevance. It has been rightly said that Nietzsche's personality and thought also have a symbolic character. Robert Reininger writes, quote, "This is a struggle for the sake of modern man, that man who no longer has any roots in the sacred soil of tradition, wavering in search of himself between the peaks of civilization and the abysses of barbarism, trying to find a satisfactory meaning for an existence completely left to itself." End quote. Friedrich Nietzsche is the one who best foresaw European nihilism as a future and a destiny which proclaims itself everywhere by the voice of 1,000 signs and 1,000 presages. The great event, obscurely suspected, that God is dead, is the principle of the collapse of all values. From this point, morality is deprived of its sanction and incapable of maintaining itself, and the interpretation and justification formerly given to all norms and values disappear. Dostoevsky expressed the same idea in the words, "If God does not exist, everything is permitted." The death of God is an image that characterizes a whole historical process. The phrase expresses unbelief turned to daily reality, a desacralization of existence, and a total rift with the world of tradition that, beginning in the West at about the period of the Renaissance and humanism, has increasingly assumed the character of an obvious and irreversible state of affairs for present-day humanity. This state is no less real where it is not clearly visible, owing to a regime of doubles and surrogates of the God who is dead. We must distinguish various stages of the process in question. The elementary fact is a fracture of an ontological character, through which human life loses any real reference to transcendence. All the developments of nihilism are already virtually contained in this fact. Morality rendered independent from theology and metaphysics, and founded on the sole authority of reason, so-called autonomous morality, is the first phenomenon to take shape after the death of God, trying to hide it from consciousness. When the level of the sacred is lost, the absolute principle descends to the level of pure human morality. This defines the rationalistic phase of the Stoicism of duty and of moral fetishism, which, incidentally, is one of the characteristics of Protestantism. In speculative philosophy, this phase has as its sign or symbol the Kantian theory of the categorical imperative, ethical rationalism, and autonomous morality. But once morality has lost its root, which is the original effective relationship of man with a higher world, it ceases to have any invulnerable foundation, and the critics soon have the better of it. In autonomous morality, which is secular and rational, the only resistance to any natural impulse is an empty and rigid command, a vow shout that is a mere echo of the ancient living law. Then, at the point where one tries to give this vow shout some firm content, and to justify that content, the ground gives way. There is no support for those capable of thinking it through to the end. This is already the case with Kantian ethics. In reality, there is no imperative at this stage that does not imply the presumed axiomatic value of certain unexplained premises that depend simply on a personal equation or on the accepted state of affairs in a given society. The phase of dissolution that follows, that of ethical rationalism, is defined by utilitarian or social ethics. Renouncing any intrinsic or absolute basis for good and evil, the justification proposed for what is left of moral norms is whatever suits the individual for his own advantage and for his material tranquility in social life. But nihilism is already visible behind this morality, when there is no longer any internal restraint. Every action and behavior appears illicit so long as the outer sanctions of society's laws can be avoided, or if one is indifferent to them. Nothing any longer has an intrinsic norm and an imperative character. It is just a matter of adjusting to society's codes, which take the place of the superseded laws of religion. After Puritanism and ethical rigorism, this is the orientation of the bourgeois world towards social idols and conformism founded on convenience, cowardice, hypocrisy, or inertia. But the individualism of the end of the 19th century marked in its turn the beginning of an anarchic dissolution that rapidly spread and intensified. It had already prepared the chaos hiding behind the facade of apparent orderliness. The previous phase, limited in its extent, had been that of the romantic hero, the man who feels himself alone in the face of divine indifference, and the superior individual who, despite everything, reaffirms himself in a tragic context. He breaks accepted laws, but not in the sense of denying their validity. Rather, he claims for himself exceptional rights to what is forbidden, be it good or ill. The process exhausts itself, for example, in a man like Max Stirner, who saw in all morality the ultimate form of the divine fetish that was to be destroyed. He denounced the beyond that exists within man and that tries to give him rules as being a new heaven that is merely the insidious transposition of the external theological beyond, which has been negated. With this conquest of the interior God and the exaltation of the unique that is free from rules and rests its cause on nothingness, opposing itself to every value and pretense of society, Stirner marks the end of the road trodden by the nihilistic social revolutionaries, to whom the term nihilism was originally applied, but trodden in the name of the utopian social ideas in which they always believed. Ideas such as justice, liberty, and humanity, as opposed to the injustice and tyranny that they saw in the existing order. Turning to Nietzsche, the European nihilism that he predicted as a general, not just as a sporadic phenomenon, attacks not only the field of morality in a strict sense, but also that of truth, of worldviews, and of ends. The death of God is associated with this loss of any meaning to life, any superior justification for existence. Nietzsche's theme is well known, that a need for evasion and a surrender of life have brought about the invention of a world of truth, or a world of values separate from and in opposition to this world now characterized as false and worthless. Another world has been invented, a world of being, goodness, and spirit as a negation or condemnation of the world of becoming, of the senses, and of living reality. But that constructed world dissolved once it was discovered that it was an illusion. Nietzsche revealed its genesis and pointed out its human, all too human, and irrational roots. His contribution to nihilism as a free spirit and immoralist has been precisely his interpretation of certain superior and spiritual values, not only as simple vital impulses, but in most cases as the results of a decadent and enfeebled life. On these terms, all that remains real is what had been negated or rejected from the point of view of that other, superior world of God and truth. The world of what ought to be, not of what is. The conclusion is that what ought to be is not, what is what ought not to be. This is what Nietzsche called the tragic phase of nihilism. It is the beginning of the misery of man without God. Existence seems devoid of any meaning, any goal, while all imperatives, moral values, and restraints have fallen away, so have all supports. Once more, we find a parallel in Dostoevsky, where he makes Kirillov say that man invented God just to be able to go on living. God therefore, as an alienation of the I. The terminal situation is given in drastic form by Sartre when he declares that existentialism is not an atheism in the sense of being reduced to proving that God does not exist. Rather, it says that even if God does exist, nothing would change. Existence is reduced to itself in its naked reality, without any reference point outside itself, and that could give it real meaning for man. Thus, there are two phases. The first is a sort of metaphysical or moral rebellion. The second is the phase in which the very motives that had implicitly nourished that rebellion give way and dissolve. For a new type of man, they are empty. That is the nihilistic phase in the proper sense, whose chief theme is the sense of the absurdity, the pure irrationality of the human condition.